Well, good morning, everyone. Glad you could be with us here on this Pride Sunday. Welcome to First Parish Unitarian Universalist of Medfield.
An especially warm welcome to all who are visiting. We hope you will stay for social hour downstairs following the service. And of course, welcome to all streaming from home.
This meeting house where we have a privilege of gathering this morning was built in 1789. However, this is in fact the third meeting house of this congregation, which first gathered in 1651, settling here in this land that was and is still now the homeland of the Nipmuc Nation, who inhabited this area for thousands of years.
While we realize we cannot undo the harm that has already been caused to the Nipmuc Nation, we strive to prevent further harm and to find ways to support our Indigenous neighbors as our faith calls us to do. In your order of service, you will find a link to our website of ways we all can help.
Holding all of this in our hearts, we welcome you to this place. Here we search for truth and understanding. Here we celebrate life and we contemplate its mysteries. Here we share healing and wholeness. So wherever you are, wherever you're from, whatever you believe, whomever you love, we welcome you to this congregation. I'd invite you to hear the words of the Reverend Hannah Roberts Villanave. People sometimes ask, is pride a protest or a party? And the answer is, of course, yes. And why not? Why not rejoice as we resist? Why don't we dance as we demand change? Celebrate as we create community that delights in all of who we are. So I'd invite you to bring all of that with you this morning. Bring your policy demands. Bring your glitter. Bring your Supreme Court broken heart. Bring your rainbow lays. Bring the emptiness you feel for our siblings gone too soon. Bring your Gloria Estefan remix. Bring your tender hope for change. Bring your most garish eyeshadow. Bring your spirit, tattered and battered by a world that seems insistent on choosing fear and hates. Gather up all of these things and bring them here to a place where we don't have to shoulder these burdens or celebrate these joys alone. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. Thank you. Chalice lighting is called Flames of Memory, and it's by Reverend Alex Scott. The chalice is lit, and in the flames of the memory of our trans and non-binary ancestors, do a dance of freedom and liberation, reminding us that we are whole and holy. We are loved beyond all measure, and in our refusal to accept anything less, may we know we are rooted in the infinite divinity, not relegated to the outskirts of the web of all existence, but enshrined at its core, enfleshed with stardust and fairy dust, and intentional creation of space where our many gods live.
Please rise in body or in spirit for the unison reading of our congregational covenant. Today we'll be reading only lines 1, 2, and 4. Love is the foundation and spirit of our congregation, and we declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity. As people of goodwill, we covenant with one another to listen to one another with empathy and kindness to build trust. Please remain standing for our opening hymn. Let's Gather the Spirit, number 347 in your gray hymnal. Now I'd invite forward our First Parish Executive Board for an update on the search.
Hi, everyone. So we continue to work as a team, and I really appreciate those who have joined us on our minister search. I will let you know that we continue to pursue somebody to work with us on a contract basis for next year.
Just the email that we sent out this week, a few points. We did interview an interested candidate earlier in May. This person decided to take a position at a larger church, but we had a good interview and we felt positive about the experience. We developed a one-page job description for distribution to contacts. The material on the UUA is much more detailed, and so we wanted to abridge that so it would be easy to hand out to other ministers who might be able to pass it on to their contacts. We've networked with other former FPUU ministers and other contacts in UU ministry. And we've begun to advertise on some seminary websites. I've posted it at the Harvard Divinity School. It will also be going on to Andover Newton and BU School of Theology. So again, any questions, contact any of us. And let's see, members of the search team who are here today, Tian in the back, I don't see John, and Rebecca Stevenson is the other person. Anything else from anybody else? Okay, thank you so much.
And of course, if just want to rest your minds that, if this doesn't happen for September, I've already reached out to many of my colleagues, and they would be thrilled to guest preach. So just wanted to let you know that as well.
Down in the vestry to the left of the kitchen, there's like a little nook, and I put there some blank cards for people to fill out. We have done this in RE before. They're cards for trans kids. But the secret is, hold on to that for now, that you cannot directly say it's for trans kids because these are kids who are still in the closet or living in a home where they're not welcomed or accepted yet. So you have to say stuff like, you're doing amazing, and you're like, you're great, but not like, congrats on being trans. So there's rules/suggestions for what you can write next to it, but I would hope everybody is able to fill one out, just a little one. And today we're doing a MFAA about someone named Dorothy. Do you guys know anyone named Dorothy?
The girl from Wizard of Oz.
The girl from Wizard of Oz. Do you know someone named Dorothy?
Yeah, there's Dorothy Vaughan.
Dorothy Vaughan? Sure. There's probably a lot of Dorothys out there, right? This is a very important person named Dorothy. We know at least one Dorothy, of course, the Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz. And the Dorothy we're learning about today is also fictional. What's fictional mean?
Not exactly real.
Not exactly real. So, in this case, being a friend of Dorothy is really cool. So listen up and hear what being a friend of Dorothy means. This book is called, Are You a Friend of Dorothy? I might need you to do one of them. The true story of an imaginary woman and the real people she helped. This is for you. Thank you. Are you a friend of Dorothy? Sometimes the question was whispered in a crowded room. Sometimes it was asked in private, on a sidewalk or in a restaurant, or a party, or at work. You see, oh, hold on, I skipped a page. Did I? Or a party or at work. You see, people always know how to find each other. And when it wasn't safe to be out as yourself, you can find creative ways to learn who your friends might be. Not too long ago in the United States of America, LGBTQ people, who were mostly called gay and lesbian back then, had to hide away a part of themselves. There were laws that made it illegal to be gay. If a person's boss found out they were gay or lesbian, they could be fired. If police decided that someone was wearing the wrong kind of clothes, men wearing dresses or women wearing ties, they could be arrested. If your family found out that you were gay, you might even be sent to a hospital for a long time, and doctors would cure you like you had a disease, or try to cure you. So LGBTQ people came up with ways, to recognize one another in a way that no one else could understand. Special phrases and symbols, hints in handkerchiefs and in flowers, like being in a secret club. Outside you might be quiet and plain, but inside you could be bright and free, surrounded by friends who saw who you really were. One common secret phrase was friend of Dorothy. A gay man might ask another man, are you a friend of Dorothy? If the other man said no, or who, or do you mean Dorothy Miller, Joe Miller's wife? Yeah, I know her. He wouldn't come out. But if another man said, yes, darling, I am, the two men would know that they were safe together. So it's like a secret code. Isn't that kind of cool? It's like a password. Sometimes friends of Dorothy were allowed to keep their secrets. Other times they were searched out. Some people were especially unsafe. If you worked for the government or the military, you weren't even allowed to be secretly gay or lesbian. You could be spied on, hunted down, and fired, and might not be able to find a job again. Doesn't sound very good. It was a hard and scary time for these communities, but there was still love and fun and friendship. There were still parties and shows, dances and weddings, and people still found who they belonged with. But as the whispers of Dorothy found their way around the country, they were overheard by ears that weren't in on the secret. So somebody heard a friend of Dorothy but didn't know what it meant. Undercover spies from the military were looking for gay service members, and some of them heard sailors call themselves friends of Dorothy. And these spies started to whisper among themselves. Who was this mystery Dorothy? How did she know all these gay men? Why did she get to know them? And how could they get in to reveal her secrets? The officers went on a hunt for Dorothy, but they were searching for a woman who didn't exist. No one knows for sure where the phrase came from, but it's probably related to Dorothy Gale from Kansas, the girl in The Wizard of Oz, who has been important to generations of LGBTQ people for many generations. Dorothy dreamed of leaving her small town to find people who understood her, a story that many queer people can relate to. Plenty of gay men were entranced by Judy Garland and the actress who played Dorothy in the film. She was a talented, passionate performer and had a hard and sad life. And the movie, of course, was awash in beautiful rainbow colors. But Dorothy Gale wasn't a real person, so the officers weren't trying to get her phone number anytime soon. Sorry. There we go. Keep forgetting to show the pages. There was another Dorothy who might have inspired the phrase, but spies weren't going to find her either. She was a famous writer named Dorothy Parker, known for being clever and grouchy. She threw rollicking parties in the 1920s that many gay and men and lesbians went to. There you could talk to or dance with whomever you chose. And to get into one of her parties, you might say you were one of her friends. But Dorothy Parker had died many years before the Navy started looking for someone with her name. So of course they couldn't ask her anything. How did they look for Dorothy? Did they call up every Dorothy in the phone book? Did they knock on the doors of all the Dorothys they could find, demanding information? Did they interrogate her friends, trying to get one of them to crack and spill where Dorothy lived? And what happened when someone, probably a very brave sailor, finally told them the truth? We don't know a lot about this moment, but LGBTQ service members probably laughed when they found out what happened. Their secret code had worked, maybe a little too well, and the officers and spies who had made such a big mistake were probably pretty embarrassed. A lot has changed in the United States of America since then. It's not illegal to be gay or lesbian in the military or outside it. Millions of LGBTQ people have out and open lives. There are movies and TV shows with happily queer characters. There are books and comics and musicals and art about queer people. But sometimes it's still harder to be LGBTQ. Some jobs might still fire their queer employees for no good reason, and LGBTQ people might have an extra hard time finding jobs in the first place. Some places have laws making it harder for transgender people to live openly as themselves, and in many communities, it's still not safe to come out. LGBTQ people don't have to invent a secret language to talk about ourselves, but we still find ways of keeping each other safe. We still know how to find our community, and learning about the ways we survived in the past could help people in the future. There was never a Dorothy, but there will always be her friends. The end. Okay, do we still have to be secretive about who we are? Not here, right? Not in this community, not here, right? Yeah, all of Massachusetts is usually pretty good. LGBTQ people have had a lot of wins in the past couple of years, but the fight is far from over. There's legislation, laws being made so that you cannot learn about LGBTQ people or leaders, and that trans kids cannot participate in sports. There are a lot of laws out there that are attacking LGBTQ people and kids. What's most important is that we fight for the rights of us, these people, and which includes many people in your friend groups, family, congregation, and it might even include you. So we in this congregation are all friends of Dorothy, and we will always be a safe space for the people who need it. Thank you.
Let's sing the children out to religious exploration. invite you to quiet your hearts and minds as we enter to this time of prayer and meditation. Spirit of love and life, God of many names, infinite love in the universe. This morning we hold all of the joys and sorrows that were shared. So many complex feelings. This morning I'd like to say a prayer of gratitude for this intentional space for our children, where they can hear messages like we just heard, messages of inclusion, creating a safe space that I certainly didn't experience as a child. Many of us, we grew up knowing the word gay was a bad word, an insult, something to be ashamed of and hide from. And now our children, our littlest children, are hearing that it's okay, that they're whole, holy, and loved. And more to the point, it's saving lives. Because tragically today, the suicide rate for our trans youth is double what it is for other teenagers. We still have so much work to do. Let's do it together. Let's hold all of this in our hearts as we enter into this time of silent meditation. Because the sanctuary is so filled with joy and sorrow this morning, as you can see on the clock, we're running late. I would just ask for your patience and your respect for the three speakers we're about to hear. And if you do need to excuse yourself to use a restroom, please do so. First, I'd invite up Shirley Riga.
My wife Thea and I moved into the Pride about 1.5 years ago. The Pride is the first affordable LGBTQ plus affirming housing in the state of Massachusetts. We live in the village of Hyde Park in the city of Boston among people striving to belong, survive, and thrive. I know how it feels to be objectified as a woman, as a lesbian, and as a victim. I also know how my sense of self-worth is whittled away when I feel fear. believe I am less than and othered, for being different, for being objectified, and for being victimized. At times, I experience extreme anxiety and depression. I am victimized by the worst predator in my life, and that predator being my ego, communicating at me with negative self-talk. My practice of sitting in silence has helped me listen within and discover and uncover how I speak to myself holds an incredible amount of my personal power. Our life journeys are both an inside and an outside job. We learn as we mature into adulthood and create a living, raise a family if we choose, and find love. And hopefully age well into our later years. We hope to be part of a community and find deeper meaning to our life. And we all do the best we can, and we all know life happens and challenges are always present. Life is harder when our egos have a critical opinion on everything, judging our inner thoughts, actions, and deeds. We wind up comparing, competing, and struggling with our self-worth. Most of us were never made aware of the effect this critical inner voice can have on our sense of self. I certainly was never made aware until a catastrophe opened my eyes. On the other hand, when I began redefining my inner dialogue, I found the better I feel about myself inside and out, the more present I can be in this world of change. So imagine for a moment and ponder this question: how safe are you? I am not meaning your safety in the world against harm. I mean, how safe a person are you if another human being who has been objectified, traumatized, victimized, or targeted approaches you for support, guidance, solace, or a shoulder to lean on? How much of you can be present without judgment? The first principle of the UUA is to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. This is no lightweight assertion and can be quite difficult, especially when it comes to certain people. Even when we believe it, in the heat of the moment, it is easy to forget. This world as we know it continues to break down from a system that has been in place for centuries. How one identifies themselves changes every day. An individual's sexual orientation is independent of their gender identity. Young people are clamoring to capture their individual identity with this anything goes time in the world. Elders like me hopefully are open-minded enough to navigate this world without cringing at the anything goes attitude, because in a sense, in the past, we struggled in a similar way. In a world that was heavily defined by the patriarchy. Newsflash, the patriarchy is gasping its last breath and people are pushing beyond the boundaries. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where you are witnessing an individual being mistreated and judged by their appearance, their gender choice, their individuality, will you come across as a safe individual to help? Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. This morning we welcome Rob Quinn. He is also a resident of the Pride where Thea and Shirley live.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Pride. Thank you for having me. My name is Rob, and I live with, I don't live with Shirley and Thea. I live at the Pride with Shirley and Thea. And I just wanted to share with you a reflection. And I did bring my readers, and at this age, it's called preparation, not age. So. Dear past self, dear future generation. To the younger version of me, to the older version of me still becoming, and to the generations coming up after us. At 66 years old, living and thriving with HIV/AIDS, and now residing at the Pride, I find myself thinking more deeply about time than I ever did when I was younger. When you're young, life often feels endless. You move quickly, you assume there will always be more time to figure things out, more time to heal, more time to become yourself. But age changes your relationship with time. Survival changes it even more. I belong to a generation of LGBTQ people who learned early how fragile life could be. Many of us came of age carrying secrets, fear, shame, and silence. Some of us learned how to hide before we ever learned how to fully live. Then came the AIDS epidemic, and suddenly survival itself became uncertain. There were years when many of us stopped imagining becoming old entirely, and yet here I am, still here, 32 years later. Still learning, still becoming, still trying to understand what it means, not just to survive, but to fully inhabit it. That is why gatherings like this matter. Intergenerational spaces matter because they remind us that no one exists alone in history. We are all connected by struggle, resilience, language, identity, loss, courage, and hope. To my past self, I want to say this. You are not broken simply because the world struggles to understand you. You do not need to earn a right to exist. The shame you carry does not belong to you. There will be years when you lose trying to survive. There will be moments when grief, addiction, fear, or loneliness convince you that you are too far gone to rebuild your life. But you are not beyond recovery. You are not beyond reinvention. One day, the parts of you, the parts of yourself you spent hiding become the very parts to help another person. And to my future self, the older version of me I haven't met yet. Can't imagine that. I want to say, I hope you continuing choosing softness over bitterness. I hope you never confuse aging with irrelevance. I hope you keep allowing yourself to be surprised by joy. And I hope you remember that healing is not the finish line. And I hope you continue believing that your presence still matters, even in a culture that often treats older adults, especially LGBTQ older adults, as invisible once they are no longer young. Because the truth is, we are still here. We are not disposable. We are not simply history lessons. We are not placeholders waiting for younger generations to take over. We are living archives of resilience, love, survival, and community. Many older LGBTQ adults carry stories the world never documented properly because we were too busy just trying to survive at the time. And younger generations deserve to know this, not because they owe us admiration, but because intergenerational dialogue helps all of us understand where we come from and where we still need to go together. At the same time, I also believe older generations have much to learn from the younger LGBTQ people today. I admire the courage many young people carry into the world. I admire the openness around gender, identity, mental health, authenticity, and emotional honesty. I admire the refusal to shrink themselves to fit into another person's expectations. And yes, I admire reclaiming the word queer, even while recognizing that that word carries complicated emotions for many people in my generation. For younger generations, queer is often empowering, affirming, inclusive, in a deeply intentional way. However, for many older LGBTQ adults, that word was once used as a weapon. It was meant to humiliate, to threaten, to reduce us to something shameful. So when older adults cautiously react to the word, it's not rejection. Sometimes it's just a memory. Sometimes it's survival living inside the body long after the moment has passed. The language evolves, and communities evolve with it. I support younger generations reclaiming the word because reclaiming language can transform pain into power. I simply hope there is room for compassion across generations, space where older LGBTQ adults can acknowledge their history while younger people continue shaping the future. That is what real community looks like to me. Not agreement about everything. Conversation, listening, curiosity, respect, and room for complexity. As someone aging within the LGBT community, I have also come to understand how important it is for us older adults to remain visible. Too often, LGBT culture becomes centered entirely around the youth, while aging quietly moves to the margins. Yet, many older adults still face isolation, financial insecurity, health disparities, grief, trauma, and most importantly, the fear of aging alone. Some survived HIV/AIDS only to discover that surviving was not the same thing as feeling supported afterwards. I know that from personal experience. Some still carry decades of silence in them, and we see this where we live. Some are only beginning to live openly after a lifetime of hiding, and again, we see that where we live. That is why the places like the Pride matter. That is why community matters. Because aging with dignity should never be considered a privilege reserved for a few. And if there's one lesson I hope all of us carry forward, it is this. Do not wait until a crisis forces you to value connection. Take care of one another now. Let's learn each other's stories now. Let's build communities now that never leave anybody behind. The LGBT community has always survived through chosen family, shared resilience, and collective care. We need that just as much today as we ever did before, for sure. Maybe even more. So, to my past self, thank you for holding on. To my future self, keep showing up. And to the next generation, please remember that the people who came before you are not standing behind you. We are standing beside you. Still learning, still becoming, still crossing, and we are still here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Now I'd invite up Thea Ibrall.
So many emotions. Kate reminded me of what it was like in the 60s, and it was not fun. It was terrifying to be gay in the 60s. And, the National Coming Out Day was 1988, so, I was a lesbian for 20 years before that, and in 1988, I still couldn't come out. I had so much fear, and I watched other people doing that. So I just have so many emotions. Thank you. Shirley and I asked a friend of ours at the Pride to be another speaker here. His name is Jake. We welcomed him to tell his story. He's smart, he's creative, he's got a PhD, he plays the French horn, he's organized, he's got, his hearing is going, and I was so sure that he would come and speak about his transition from going from being a woman to being a man, and about becoming a mother and of a daughter. And he said no. He said he needs to speak to his own people. He said, you all should just read a book. He said, it takes me a long time to understand this. He said he was never a woman. So he didn't do a transition from being a woman to a man because he was never a woman. And I really had to get my head around that. So all I can do is look at my own experience. You all know that I'm on the anti-racism team here, and that I've done classes and workshops in terms of being a white ally and being in classes on white people challenging racism. And I've seen people there in these classes that look black but say that they're white. And I've met people who look white and say they are black. And because I've grown up indoctrinated into this either-or culture that we have, it's hard for me to get my head around those things also. And one thing I've learned there in those workshops is that, and talking to people, is that black people do not want to educate white people on what racism and race is all about. And so I equate what Jake said to the same idea, as that as a man who looked like a woman, he doesn't want to sit here and educate all of us on what that means. My own experiences, there are also similarities. My parents brought me up as a straight woman, doing all the things that women do, and I look like a woman, and I married a man, and but in reality, I was never straight. I've never been a so-called normal woman. I've had some experiences, and I think some of you know what happened to me in 1968. I know you've heard this story before, but I want to repeat it. And it's because it's my way of relating what it is like in our either-or world. And I think it's the same problem that trans people have. And if conservatives have their way, it may be the way that the world is going back for people that are othered in this world. How long has your throat been sore? He asked. Can you lay down for a moment so I can examine you? I agreed because examination tables and stethoscopes are there to protect us. The room has large windows covered with blinds. His hand travels on my stomach muscles, scratching my skin. Can you undo your pants, he says. I'm staring at the off-white walls, wondering what this has to do with a sore throat. And I'm starting to get on the edge, but he's the doctor. He knows what's what. Not I. I am naive, bouncy like a lilac, clothed in a belief in puppy dogs and cherry ice cream, and unexpected love, the till death do us part kind. One doesn't want to spread bad germs, not when one is in love. Doctors do what they want. We nod when they say nod, and open our ears so they peer in our ears and our canals and find secrets hidden from our daily version. What they need to know is important, so we capitalize the word. And I'm lying down as he ordered, but it seems odd that he's feeling my stomach muscles. When I told him about a sore throat, and he starts palpating lower, pushing downwards further and further below my waist and into my pants, and I'm wondering about that sore throat thing, and finally his hand stops, as if he's held to a line of decorum, as if he knows he's crossing it. And as I sit up, he admits he's trying to figure out if I'm a man or a woman. Friends wear their hair longer than mine, their blouses pinker than mine, my jeans are dark green, my shirts are plaid and tailored, I sport loafers, I don't wear a bra. What is it about our need to pigeonhole a person? Do we feel safer, sleep longer, breathe deeper, knowing everyone is branded into a specific box or square triangle of gender or race or national identity? How women once couldn't marry women, and how skin color defined seating assignments. Why not ear size or shoe size or the breadth of one's vocabulary? I get shuffled out of the room, the doctor smug in his diagnostic procedures. The nurse sweeps out evidence of my moment, how simple an act that is, as I walk away from the clinic, trying to find another day. Thank you.
Thank you, Thea. And what else is there for me to say after hearing such powerful reflections? Being a cisgender straight man, I certainly don't have personal experience with any of this, but yet I strive to have more empathy. You know, I'd invite you to really think about how you were raised to believe there are only two genders. And imagine that there is more to being human. You know, a non-binary friend of mine who has no intention of transitioning put it this way. She said, when we're kids, we try in all types of ways of being. Some dress as a jock, some see themselves as an artist, some are bookworms, some are skateboarders. And we adults think all of this is unusual, this is normal. We adults understand that having different identities as we grow up that will likely change. It's not only okay, but it's to be encouraged, to be celebrated. You know, let our children explore who they want to be. So then why on earth would it be so judgmental if our son wants to wear a dress, or a daughter says she feels more like a boy and rather cut her hair and wear jeans, wear flannel? And what's the problem? Of course, none of this is new. Trans and gender expansive people have always existed and always will. You know, please know that I am not suggesting that we do away with the concept of man and woman. I identify as a man. I always have. If you like these terms that fit you, or you aspire to, then that is wonderful. What I am saying is that everyone should have the freedom to decide for themselves what these terms mean and if they want to claim them for themselves. Many in power, as we know, are trying to legislate their own bigotry. And many couch it in Scripture, in a God that commands such things, in Scripture that was written thousands of years ago. One thing I always found curious is, raise your hand if you think that the racial understandings of 100 years ago, the word colored, still translate to today. Of course not. We'd say 100 years ago people had a different idea, different language than we do today. So why on earth do people say words that were written 2,500 years ago would fit our understandings of the social constructs we have today? But yet many do. 38 states currently have anti-transgender legislation on their books. The number of new bills growing every day. You know, today the ACLU is tracking 527 anti-LGBTQ bills that are in the process in various state legislatures. Most of them are anti-trans bills. As you may know, our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee has been deeply involved with a network of activists and organizations working to get trans and gender expansive people out of unsafe states. This is called the Pink Haven Coalition, and you may recall a few years ago that the Reverend Laura Randall came and spoke here as a representative from the Pink Haven Coalition. So yes, of course, we know there's much work to be done out there to push back against hateful legislation. But there is so much work to be done right here with us in our own hearts. Because every one of you grew up here with internal biases, like it or not. We all were taught bigotry in various forms. But I'd invite you to move beyond your hurt feelings of what it might feel like to think you're a bigot, like we all are in various ways. But instead, think about how your micro and macroaggressions are heard by the marginalized, are heard by the ones who are considered other. And because even well-intentioned folks like you and I, we can and do say hurtful and ignorant things. Found myself saying the same thing. You know, because what we might consider to be a minor slip of the tongue can hurt in ways that we will never understand, those who are cis and straight like I. And I want you to hear one thing. If you remember one thing from my talk today, I want you to hear this. According to the Trevor Project, approximately 46 to 52% of transgender and non-binary youth in the United States seriously consider attempting suicide every year. And 20% actually attempt suicide. Here in 2026, half of our trans kids think about killing themselves, and 1 in 5 actually attempt it. This is an urgent crisis we face. Yes, I know that Pride is a celebration. Yesterday on the Boston Common, amazing celebration. But our children are dying. And frankly, collectively, we grown-ups are the ones to blame. So all of us, moms, dads, grandpas, grandmas, and all who might be are struggling to understand why your little Kevin wants to dress differently and maybe change their name to Kayla. Or that your Brenna brought home Sarah for Thanksgiving. Or that Fiona would rather not be pigeonholed into one gender and wants the freedom to explore just other possibilities. I'd invite you to take a breath, appeal to your better angels, and watch what you say. For those ignorant little comments, those sighs, those looks of disapproval, those long silences, well, may be understandable in a sense of you're trying to process a new reality. It can really hurt, especially since our children are looking to us for guidance, for approval, for help. Our children are listening. More than anything, they simply want to be accepted, just as they are. Let us remind them all that they are whole, holy, and loved, just as they are, no matter what. Amen? Amen. Now I'd invite forward Don Rolfe to introduce the morning's offering.
Well, as I often want to say, this congregation, this community rests on 3 things. It rests on us, it rests on what we do, and it rests on the financial support and other support that we use to keep it going. Today, the offering will be split between this congregation and UU Mass Action. We look at our first portion of our covenant. It emphasizes the dignity and worth of every individual and their right to flourish. Those are echoed in the goals of UU Mass Action. And with that in mind, and with the stories we've heard today, we hope you'll be generous in support of this community, UU Mass Action, and indeed, opportunities for all to flourish.
please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn? It's number 168 in your gray hymnal, One More Step. As we prepare to leave this sacred space, I leave you with the words of the Reverend Jamie Yondell. Let us hold the flames of memory of our trans and non-binary ancestors who do a dance of freedom and liberation, reminding us that we are whole and holy, that we are loved beyond all measure. And in our refusal to accept anything less, may we know that we are rooted in the infinite divinity, not relegated to the outskirts of the web of all existence, but yet enshrined at its core and fleshed with stardust and with fairy dust. Friends, go in peace, go in love, go in compassion. Extinguish our chalice, but may its light and warmth stay with us until we meet again. Here ends our worship. Let our service begin.